Alright, let's start it up. We are back with more Deceive Inc. Due to the recent influx of new players from the recent console free-to-play weekend, as well as the ongoing Steam sale putting the game 50% off, I thought we'd get more in-depth into some individual agents. Before we really get into our rugged veteran Chavez here, I thought we'd do some definitions. If you watch videos, streams, or read about this game, you may hear builds referred to as things like Chavez 123, 111, or Chavez 323. These refer to the weapon, expertise, and passive respectively. So for example, a 111 would be weapon 1, expertise 1, and passive 1. 123 would be weapon 1, expertise 2, and passive 3. And 323, weapon 3, expertise 2, passive 3. If you're reading it in text form, oftentimes people will insert a W1E2P3 for ease of reading, but that's not always the case. If you're reading the patch notes about the game, the development team will refer to the first one as base, the second one as mod 1, and the third as mod 2. So important difference between the development and the community namings of these things. Now let's talk about Chavez. Before we really get into the agent themselves, there's two status effects you should be aware of. The first one is invulnerable. Being invulnerable negates all incoming damage. The issue with invulnerable is when you are invulnerable, your interactions are limited to only unlocked doors. You cannot change disguise, you cannot hack, you cannot unlock a door, and you cannot pick up items, keycards, chips off the ground or any other location. Being invulnerable does negate all damage, including fall damage, worth knowing. The other status effect Chavez can get is resistant. Resistant for Chavez reduces all incoming damage by 40%. That is it. One last definition we're going to talk about is gray health, which appears on Chavez's passive 1 and 3. Gray health is when Chavez takes damage, instead of all of that damage going directly to his HP, some of that damage will remain as gray health. And based on which passive you have for Chavez, that gray health can be healed back, but we'll get to that when we get there. Chavez falls into the Vanguard class. Vanguards are well-rounded and self-reliant fighters that can get through pretty much any situation. While classes aren't really relevant in the game themselves, it is good to know who falls where. Now let's talk about Chavez's weapons. Chavez's weapon 1 really embodies that Vanguard style, boasting medium stats across the board, medium fire rate, medium reload, and a damage of 25 to the body and 44 to the head. It really is a comfort pick that will get you through any situation. There's really no area it excels, but no area it really lags behind in either. This is a weapon I like to fall back on if I'm having some rough games or just because it is fun to play. Now let's move on to Chavez's second weapon. The Vigilante trades power for speed. Your reload times are faster, your rate of fire is faster, but your damage numbers fall to only 18 to the body and 27 to the head. With such low damage numbers, you really do have to hit every single shot in order to win the fight, and if you're caught reloading, you could end up in trouble despite your quick reload time. Finally, we have his weapon 3, the Duke, really does the opposite. Slow reload time, slow rate of fire, but powerful hits and 35 damage to the body and 70 to the head. This is probably the most common weapon Chavez will use, as its 70 damage headshot can easily win a fight on its own, only needing to follow up with a body shot or even a charged melee attack. Now let's move on to Chavez's expertise. His expertise 1 makes him invulnerable for 7 seconds. We've already talked about what invulnerable does at the start, but for review it does make you completely immune to all forms of damage, at the cost of only being able to interact with already unlocked doors. It is worth noting that you cannot reload your weapon during this expertise. Expertise has a relatively short cooldown of 40 seconds if you use all 7 seconds, or you can cancel the ability early for a shorter cooldown, minimum of about 18 seconds. This ability is considered an instant, meaning it does happen as soon as you hit your expertise button, and there is no need to input another mouse command, which is very useful. This ability on its own is not that good. Invulnerability for 7 seconds really usually only serves to extend the fight for 7 seconds, potentially even allowing a third person to come, which may be worse in the long run. However, coupling this with at least one or two of his passives does make this a good ability, but we'll talk about that in the passive section. Moving on to Chavez's second ability, the Unshakable Fortress. Chavez will create a circular zone around him, and all allies, including himself in that zone, gain the resistant status. We already talked about resistant, but for review, it will prevent 40% of all damage done. This is probably the most common Chavez ability you will see, and being an instant is very good. You can lead a fight with either a shot or a punch, and then drop this ability without having to interrupt your cadence at all. If you are being ambushed, you can drop this ability before you've even turned around to see who is shooting you. The 40% damage reduction really does give you the amount of time you need to turn a fight or use your slower weapons to fish for important headshots. Moving on to Chavez's third and final expertise, the Return to Sender. Once again, Chavez will become invulnerable, this time for 3.5 seconds, and any damage that he would have received during this time powers up his weapon instead. The current mag will get powered up until you reload or empty your clip, and it does bonus damage. It's currently unclear of exactly how much bonus damage this is, but it does appear to scale with how much damage you would have taken. This is probably my least favorite of Chavez's expertise, as it is most of the time just a worse version of his expertise 1. The bonus damage on the current clip tends not to matter very much, and it is shorter than the first expertise. It also cannot be cancelled like the first expertise. Now let's talk about Chavez's passive. The first one, Tough Luck, deals with gray health. We've already discussed gray health, but any damage you take, a portion of that is gray health, and with this passive, that gray health will regenerate after some time. A neat combo with this passive and the expertise 1 you can do is if you have the expertise 1 leaving you invulnerable for 7 seconds, that is enough time that this passive will start healing you. That's the most common combo you will see, although this passive can be used with basically any of his expertise, as once you are done the combat, any gray health remaining will just heal up as you regain your disguise. Onto his passive 2, the Tough as Nails. This allows Chavez to heal 50 HP more than his current maximum health. At base level, this means he can hold up to 150 HP. This overhealth is temporary, however, and after a certain amount of time starts to decay. This ability may be one of the more powerful ones in the game, at the cost of you sort of have to babysit it. With things like the food around or a social battery field upgrade, you can upkeep this bonus 50 HP or visiting health terminals frequently. It does change your playstyle a lot, but starting fights with a bonus 50 HP or even just a bonus 10 HP can be the difference between winning and losing. I think this may be one of the most powerful abilities, but it is somewhat annoying to manage. Finally, his passive 3, the Endurance Training, is likely his most common. Once again dealing with gray health, and as you take damage, that some of that damage becomes gray health. This time it is healed based on the amount of damage you are doing in return. As long as you are landing, taking damage, and dealing damage, it is similar to a form of life steal if you're familiar with that. It's unclear exactly what percentages we are dealing with gray health and the amount of damage and the healing, but this tends to just be better than the first one, Tough Luck, due to not having to wait for it to trigger. Now let's talk about some common builds. With this build, we have 1-1-1. Now the weapon here is really up to you, but I like the weapon 1, combined with the expertise 1 and the passive 1. What this build allows us to do is we have a comfort pick gun, And then once we are low, we can pop our 7 seconds of invulnerability, and during that time, our tough luck will kick in and heal us back some of that health we have lost. This may allow us to survive another shot or two once this expertise is over and turn the fight. Another popular build is 3-2-3, boasting the high damage, high risk, high reward Duke here, with the extra survivability of the Unshakable Fortress and the sort of life steal of the endurance training. This allows you to just survive a really long time while you fish for that 70 damage headshot. Or landing about 3 body shots should be enough too. Really, these 2 expertise just allow you to live long enough for the Duke to do its job. These are the 2 most popular Chavez builds I see, and a brief example of how to use them in combat. My choice of field upgrade deck for Chavez is my main food variant. We have Nutritional Supplement on Gray, allowing us to heal 14 HP from all food sources. This can be great in the middle of a fight for some additional HP, or if you just need a quick top off on the way. While eating food is riskier than doing a social interaction, it is also quicker. We have Green External Hard Drive, giving us 14 max intel, which is enough to get us to a blue and purple door without having to find any additional intel in that blue room. Social Battery on Blue gives us 3 HP per second during social interactions. 3 HP per second is not the fastest, but this is a pretty good rate. We can get about 90 HP in 30 seconds, and while sitting for 30 seconds isn't greatest, it is also very low risk. Overclock Chip on Purple gets us 50% faster hacking speed, which really comes in handy if we didn't find any keycards. Hacking through the vault doors with 50% bonus speed can really make that difference. Finally, I've run Bulletproof Fabric on Gold, giving us 15 additional HP. This is important on Chavez, as again he wants to be fishing for headshots or just surviving, along with interacting positively with his gray health, allowing you to heal more. This is the build I would run. I am not a Chavez one trick or anything, and likely there are better builds. This would be a great starting point, however. Now let's talk about playing against Chavez. Playing against Chavez is mostly playing against his expertise. The most common one you're likely to run into is the Unshakable Fortress. Playing against the Unshakable Fortress is difficult. It does give him 40% damage reduction while he's in that circle. The best way to fight a Chavez while he's in the circle is to move him out of that circle. Either use corners or hallways to your advantage to manipulate the fight in a way that he cannot be in the circle while you are shooting him. The other option is to wait out the circle. If you are someone like Larson and you can pop your invisibility, that will take most of the time of his circle and also allow you to reposition. If you have to fight him in the circle, I hope your opener was good before he got a chance to drop this, and you only have to just finish off the last remaining bit of his HP. The second most common expertise you'll be playing against is the Hard Boiled. This will likely be popped near the end of the fight when he's low health in an attempt to heal back the most amount of gray health possible. For you, this is essentially a fight reset, and you should use it as such. Take a second to reload, and ready whatever your strongest attack is. If you're Sasori, you may want to charge your sword if that's available, Ace charging her shot, or a Cavalier charging her kick may all be good things to prepare. Other agents may just want to charge a melee if that 30 damage hit will be worth more than a regular shot. It is important to stay close to him during this time, as you do not want him to get away. Finally, there's the Return to Sender, which you will likely see the least common. All the tips for the Hard Boiled do apply here, but it is very important with this ability specifically that you do not shoot Chavez while he's in this state of invulnerability, as that will power up his weapon. If you don't power up his weapon, this ability just becomes a worse version of his hard-boiled, which is we already talked about how to play around. Since a lot of playing against Chavez is playing around his expertise, he's very susceptible to neutralize. If you're Ace, you may want to take the neutralizing shot. Hans, you may want to lead with the incapacitating orb or the cage. And Octo, you may want to take the goggles. This will prevent Chavez from using any of these expertise and swing the fight in your favor. The other thing you should be aware of is most of Chavez's weapons have low mag size of 6 and longer reload times versus the average of the cast. Especially if he has the Duke, any shot he does miss or is blocked in some way is one he will have to take a lot of time reloading. These reload windows are excellent opportunities for you to land some important hits and swing the fight your way. I hope you enjoyed this in-depth look at the Agent Chavez. Please drop a comment if this helped you out or you would like to see this for more Agent, as it really is important for me to know if this was worth doing more. Like the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe for daily Deceive Inc content. Most importantly, I hope to see you guys in the next one.